everything ends, including the golden age of content creation on the internet. I'd say 2012 to about 2018 were the best years for creative work on the internet. But once Tumblr got away with essentially nuking everything people liked about it in the name of being family friendly, all bets were off. Now, I am not an everything should be a free-for-all kind of person. Far from it, in fact. I really do believe that some things should just be off limits, and other things should have a place where they are kept away from general audiences. But regardless of how I feel about these ubiquitous things, I don't think they're inherently bad, and their creators still deserve respect. Because of that, I'll be the first person to say algorithms on YouTube and social media have collectively destroyed an entire generation's, maybe 2 generations, ability to self-curate and their relationship to privacy, allowing corporations like Twitter, I'm not calling it X, to consistently undermine them. I'll be honest with you guys, things are bad. Like really, really bad. Ever since the death of net neutrality, governments everywhere, but most notably the US, what with COSA and the TikTok ban and other bills, have tried to chip away at the internet as we know it. Not to make it safe, like they claim, but to control the flow of information. Not to feed the so-called woke left agenda, which isn't real by the way, but to sell you things that are of worse and worse quality so that their rich friends can rake in more money. And no, I'm not talking about sponsorships like Wishtrend and Raycons. I'm talking about the cost of living crisis. Not only that, but TV shows, movies, and the slow, agonizing death of physical media is all part of it, because at the end of the day, they want to make everything as cheap as possible so they can sell it to you for as much as possible. That's why AI is suddenly so popular, but we'll get to that in a minute. Before I really get into this, I also want to say that all of my assertions here are entirely anecdotal. There's not a lot of research happening. This is just what I've observed through streaming and content creation off and on, well, mostly off, since 2016. I'm a small creator. While I do have a few successful videos, it's pretty rare for the ones that I'm particularly passionate about to even get to quadruple digits. Most of my videos are reaction and subsequent analysis of movies and TV shows. However, despite this, there have been a lot of comments who will straight up tell me that my only job is to validate fans of these movies and TV shows. Particularly in my Saltburn and Pride and Prejudice videos, despite the overall lack of vitriol, because you do get back the energy you put into the universe, I can tell when someone's calling me an idiot for not liking something that they like. And for the record, I adored Pride and Prejudice.
That was the most romantic shit I have ever seen!
At first, it was easy to act like it didn't bother me, but naturally, more and more, I found myself trying to have the right reactions and watching the right movies and TV shows. Because when I don't, no one watches. And even though I started doing this for fun, that can be really demoralizing. But of course, magnanimous, saintly YouTube is here to help, and they have all sorts of recommendations for this very problem. Do shorts, post community posts, start a Twitch, post clips of your videos on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. Put faces in your thumbnails. Don't swear. Don't say, do, or think anything that wouldn't be said on a preschool network. Put at least 5 ad breaks in your videos. Never reference any piece of media that has ever been made ever. It gets pretty maddening. Having to do all of this just to get one video out. It's pretty easy to suck up most days, but sometimes it really is harder work than people give it credit for. Mostly because it requires consistent and constant maintenance. And consistency is just hard for humans in general, because we're so prone to change. Ever since streaming became the primary way of watching any sort of cable television, there has been an uptick in the demand for more. More shows, more movies, just more content. And to be honest, I hate calling it that, but it encompasses so much over books and shows and miniseries and movies and hell, even plays, that I don't know what else to call it. Most people blame COVID isolation, but as someone who watched this shift in real time as a working adult, it started way before then and became most obvious with the launch of Quibi in 2018 and the ending of Game of Thrones in 2019. Regardless of these failures, they're just symptoms of the bigger problem, which is the endless demand for more content faster. Art is art, But unfortunately, art is also content. And content is a product now, whether we like it or not. All the powers that be want is to spend as little as possible to make it. Sure, we have our summer blockbusters and the occasional big budget film, but other than that, most of the popular media these days are streaming shows that are binged in a weekend, and that's one of the reasons they don't have as much longevity as they used to. And when I look at everything from the slapdash production of Game of Thrones' final season to the sudden, desperate rapid fire of live-action adaptations over the last few years, I can't help but feel a decline in quality. The writers and actors of these shows have also felt it, and they went on strike for it. And even though the strike is over, as an audience member for these shows, I don't feel like anything's changed, because now these companies are just trying to find other ways to cut costs and get their way. I mean, look at everything Warner Brothers is doing. There are thousands of layoffs in the gaming industry. They're so desperate to churn and burn that they cling to something like AI, which hasn't made anyone any money yet, just want to throw that out there. So they won't have to pay anyone when a show or movie fails, and it inevitably will, because audiences are smart. We know when we are getting a terrible product. Considering the fact that shitification was the word of the year, everyone's noticed the steady decline in the internet's ability to, well, be the internet. While it never really has been the bastion of free speech people claim it once was, we were at least able to communicate, share, and verify freely. On a side note, have you noticed chip bags ripping more and more these days? At its core, the internet is a tool. Tools are impartial and only exist to be used. But that means that these tools can be used for anything, even the things they aren't supposed to be used for. That's what makes it this terrifying, unknowable abyss where anything can come out of it. Some people master this tool and use it to gain fame, money, sometimes both, but most people just manage all right, and others would just prefer you not know they use it at all. However, this near limitless potential means that people with the power and the means will try to bend it to their will and limit anyone's use of it so that they get the lion's share of whatever this tool produces, be it the government, corporations, or just one really shitty dude. This fight over what is essentially an eldritch megaphone has caused a lot of issues for anyone else who wants to use it, us included. Perhaps the most obvious example of this is the issue of plagiarism. Now, considering everything that's happened in the last few days regarding these creators, I'll refrain from using their names. But the fact of the matter is, the weekly video essay format is effectively over, or at the very least, the trust has been broken. It's been struggling for some time now, but the last few months have shown us that it's actually quite impossible to churn out perfectly written and cited content, especially in that format, every week. It's not like reading out Reddit posts. It's a format that requires intention, respect, and most of all, patience. Otherwise, you resort to stealing other people's stuff or being less than objective just to meet your quota. But what causes people to try and meet these self-imposed quotas? I'm sure there's something to be said for greed, pride, and a desire to maintain a specific lifestyle or notoriety, but there's also the fact that unless you have a 6-digit number of subscribers, the YouTube algorithm forgets about you if you don't post nearly twice a week. It's worse on TikTok. It feels like it wants you to post every hour. Even Kevin goddamn Bacon got shadow banned, but I'm getting off topic. With YouTube's slow transformation into worse TikTok, it's never been subtle about diving headfirst into trends. The algorithm can be a wild machine. After the debacle that was YouTube Kids, Not Safe for Work Elsa Reddit videos, and shooting their own ability to advertise in the foot, they didn't hire more community moderators or advisors. They just decided to make their creators do it for them. And then they let their machine decide how well they do it 2 days after the video goes up. And if they repost it, they flag it for spam. And this has hit a lot of big creators too. One of the most notable being RT Game, who got hit with it at the beginning of last year, when the algorithm started leaning heavily into keeping content PG, because more and more kids were watching the shorts as a replacement for TikTok, since TikTok panic was at its height at the time. While Daniel did manage to rally and amass an even bigger following for his resilience, it doesn't change the fact that a lot of creators just don't come back every time the algorithm decides to change. And because of the consistent demand for more, it happens more and more frequently and to older creators. When you produce things faster and faster, you tend not to double check yourself, and then it's out there forever. And some creators find that it's impossible to be proud of the work they left behind and have to stop altogether. And I think we, as the internet, can agree that we miss the hell out of Jenna Marbles. No matter how many times we say that there are human beings behind the content with full lives, hopes, and dreams beyond what they put on the internet, there's always going to be a handful of people, many of them very rich, who don't care. The night Akira Toriyama's death was announced, I read a tweet saying that artists, no matter how legendary and influential, end up getting treated like human printers. Not just by their editors, but by their fans too. So this isn't a recent thing, but the introduction of AI generation makes it feel more like a threat. AI is fast. Nevertheless, unlike human artists, AI will never create anything great, unique, or remarkable, and it never seems to make anyone any actual money or gain its users any notoriety. It's just more stuff. However, it's becoming increasingly clear that corporations and certain audiences, children and people who are afraid to look at a gay person, only want stuff. You know, everyone's an anti-capitalist until they have to give up a little bit of serotonin. Not that I have any room to talk, I still have yet to give up Overwatch. But, generic and bland as it is, AI is still contributing to the larger problem of the content machine being constantly in overdrive. The fact of the matter is that it's not sustainable. We've seen it with the self-destruction of the MCU and whatever the DCEU is trying to do. AI gens are already starting to cannibalize each other. We're losing talented artists left and right because they're being thrown into the grinder right along with everything else. It would be simple to say we should all take a step back, calm down, and then come back and do what we love doing. Because we do love it. Humans are programmed to create. We're literally the idea guys of the galaxy. But with that step back comes the fear of being replaced in your absence. Because there's always someone else, someone better, someone faster, someone who will settle for being paid less. That anxiety never goes away. It gets worse as you get older, and it gets overwhelming very quickly. There is no way to constantly create anything as a human person. Minds and bodies eventually break down. Ideas might be a renewable resource, but they take time and work. It's natural, but like most natural things, it's not easy, and it can cause you a lot of pain. Having to adhere to all these secret rules lest you get secretly suppressed by the great sanitization machine hurts all the more. This goes double for people of color in the LGBT community because no matter what the world at large thinks, these creators get suppressed just by existing because their exceedingly normal lives are considered not family friendly. Meanwhile, YouTube does nothing about the timestamps on Get Ready With Me videos. Listen, I promise I'm no doomsayer. When it comes down to it, I'm really just trying to commiserate because I really feel that as the great and influential creators of our childhoods pass away, retire, or just straight up shut down and lose their jobs, that we're all feeling a little demoralized. Especially now that we're finding that many of these great people were treated like garbage. The modern world has never been particularly attentive to artists and creative types, but lately it feels like an outright middle finger. After the strikes, the layoffs, and whatever the hell Warner Brothers is doing, I want to make sure that we're all holding it together. Because we aren't okay. I mean, no one's really okay these days, but you know what I mean. Nothing's easy, and it gets harder the older you get. It's all a part of the school of hard knocks. Everyone takes their lumps, but it does still hurt, and you do have to acknowledge that every once in a while. Especially with social media and the utter lack of boundaries these days. Everyone thinks they're free to make demands, and when you tell them to leave you alone, you become the Karen. You know, the internet isn't a bad place, but it's not a safe place either. Kind of like the mall around 6 p.m. It has a lot of great potential, not just as a tool, but a platform where you can reach out to people you'd never meet on the ground. Despite continual efforts to strangle it in the name of making it safe, it's still a place for commerce, communication, and most of all, learning, which we do every day. We practice our craft, continue to reach out to people with it, and try our best to educate. Things seem tough now, but humans are nothing if not resilient, and and hell, we're pretty creative too. It's easy to get lost in the demands of the platform, your body, and your audience, but I hope we keep trying. From the reactions, to the artists, to the car detailers. I just want us all to keep creating, because an idea is the one thing you can't kill. Oh, sorry. An idea is the one thing you can't unalive. I know this video seems more like a rant than my other videos, and maybe it is, but I really just wanted to address a lot of the concerns that people seem to have about creative platforms like YouTube and TikTok and Instagram because of the increasing restriction, the leaning into being family friendly, even though these places were never family friendly to begin with. More and more it feels like content creators are required to do everything, or they're going to fade into obscurity, not by any doing of their own, but because the algorithm just leaves them behind unless they're constantly churning out something. And I think that feeds into a lot of creative existentialism that is currently driving a lot of our media today, because God forbid Netflix doesn't come out with a new show every week, or they start shaking like a scared chihuahua. But I just wanted you to know that I hope that wherever you are in your creative journey, that you keep going. I know it gets hard sometimes and it can get kind of depressing, but I hope you keep on, because I'm going to keep on. And all the calls to action and requests for support at the end of videos, they feel annoying, but they do let your favorite creators continue to do what they love to do. So from sponsorships to Patreons, you can find mine in the link below, to like and subscribe and hit the bell and all that good stuff. It does serve a purpose. I just wanted you to know that if you're feeling demoralized in your art journey, that you're not alone. Stay weird, lovelies, and happy eating.